Welcome to Secura Law Experience. I'm Luis Elizalde, founder of Secura Law. I'm here with
Eduardo Borgard
and Stephanie de la Millar.
And today we have a great guest. Jesse is with us. The introduction, I think I can say a lot of things, but I prefer that you make your own introduction. I know that is not the normal thing, but I think you have the experience to do this.
Yeah, you got to get used to talking if you're going to be living down in Cancun, right? Well, I'm Jesse Canuck, a Canadian kid, also known as Jesse Earl Whitehead, and I'm with Brick Luxury and Living. I'm a broker down here.
And where do you work?
I'm with Brick Luxury and Living
Perfect.
in Cancun, and it's a pleasure to be on the podcast today, guys.
No, thank you for coming. So, it's not that we have a script or something. The most important thing is that we are going to speak a little bit about the experience that you have as a real estate, as a person, as a foreign that came to Cancun or to Riviera Maya to live. What is your experience about that? Let's start a little bit about you, and then maybe we can move to your profession right now.
Great question. Yeah, because the best part about living down here is the stories.
Exactly.
And everyone's got a story about how they arrived down here as well. Mine's pretty incredible. Basically, it involved, well, to put it simple, a long story short, when things are meant to be, they tend to flow in a direction.
Good.
And if you don't resist the flow, it goes in a good way, right? So I got in the flow, ended up here in Mexico, and I've been here since 2015. I can't believe.
But directly here in Quintana Roo, or maybe you try another state, or it was directly here?
All right, so that adds more to the story as well. So long story longer again.
Okay.
No, actually, I did transplant from Vancouver directly here to Playa del Carmen.
Okay.
And then I met my beautiful wife, who
Okay.
we ended up moving to Guadalajara for a year. So I got to take in a lot of the experience there in Guadalajara, which it's same but different. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Torta ahogadas for breakfast and dinner, everything.
Yeah.
Get used to, enjoy. And we lived there for a year, and then we just we just moved back to Cancun.
Okay.
So now we're back here, and it's great to be back here. The
Awesome.
beach, the Caribbean has 3 colors of blue that you just can't find anywhere else in the world. Well, you can, but it's so close to Canada and the US that it's worth coming here, right?
Awesome. So that's your experience in Guadalajara. How do you arrive here? So now you like spicy food.
Well,
or not?
yeah, it's funny how that worked out, because a lot of times I would give gifts of salsa to family and friends that would come down to visit.
Okay.
And it would end up going back to Canada. And then I would go visit my family and friends and be like, hey, do you got any salsa? And of course, it's there. They never open it. So it's a gift for myself, I guess.
Exactly.
Time. But yeah, I love the spicy. And it's funny because my mom always taught me taste the food first, then put some food on it, or whatever you want to add to it. So it's been interesting because I taste my mom's food politely. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to add some salsa now.
Nah, that's good. You know, because like, I don't like really the spicy things. You know, I used to, but nowadays it's not my best doing salsa or, hey, I need habanero, for example. For me, is oh my God, no. It's a big no because it's so spicy.
Well, one time I went to Mexico City and I got a chance to go to, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, the Castillo de Chapultepec.
Nice.
Perfect. And thank you. I always try to put extra emphasis in the pronunciation correct. But when I was there at the castle checking things out, they were telling me a story about how the guards, when they were on patrol at night, would carry a habanero in their pocket and take a bite. Yeah, there's nothing that'll wake you up like a habanero.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
That's also what truckers here do.
Oh, yeah?
When they have long rides, they also have a habanero in there. In the part of the car where you store things.
Oh, wow.
So that's another trick that you can add when you're driving and you get tired. Do the same thing.
Well, I'll tell you that I have had nights where I have to read a contract, so a little bite of a habanero wakes you up.
No, you don't have to read the contract. Send that to us, and then you can ask, hey, what's going on? You know?
There we go.
And you can sleep like a baby, and the nervous is gonna be us.
And we can save one more habanero.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Exactly. One habanero for
we can
the
do it.
trunks.
So, what's the real experience that you had regarding transactions here? Maybe we always like to ask like one of the first or your first, if you recall something about what you learned there, or if you had any experience prior to coming down here.
Great question. Did you want to add anything?
No, I was thinking almost something the same, but how you arrive to real estate? Why real estate?
Okay. Well, both
It's the same.
great
Yeah.
questions that go together. Okay. So in this industry, you have to be willing to learn because ego is your biggest enemy. The moment that you actually think that you know everything, you don't know anything, right?
Exactly.
So you need to have a humble approach. And for me, I was very fortunate to have a lot of friends and support as well to get into the industry here in Cancun, because obviously mi español is muy, well, are we allowed to say chafa?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, there's my Spanish right there. So so the first transaction, I had to leave a lot of room for learning, and the learning curve was sharp. It's amazing. If you want to learn, there's a lot of opportunity here in Quintana Roo. People want to work with other people. Obviously, there's a huge level of respect involved, because when you don't respect the other person's time, or you don't respect the other person's effort, you can lose a lot of opportunity that way. And you don't want to close any doors, because you can do something that might seem like you're wasting time. But if you look at it as like, okay, I went and found 20 possible potential suggestions for a client today, that I think one of them will be perfect, and maybe not. But now you got 20 that you know about, that you can talk to somebody else about, readily handy. So there's never a loss, really, if you look at it as a learning opportunity.
Exactly.
And I hope that answered your question. How did I do for yours, Eduardo?
Good, because that talks about how you address that first one, right? With that attitude, I think that helped you a lot, because what we hear most of the times is that they don't expect certain things, because in a real estate transaction, sometimes there's some things that are out of your hands, and you need to be receptive and with a good attitude when these things come, right?
And yeah, as you gain through experience, letting your client know that, to kind of anticipate it, really helps when it gets down to the crunch time, right?
Yep.
So everybody kind of jokes about the 1 Mexican minute turning into 90 Mexican minutes, right? So
Yeah.
if you can kind of...
The five Mexican minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do a podcast in those minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the more you're aware and communicate with your client, the better it is, ultimately, because communication is really what they rely on. For me, being the broker, I'm there. I make this joke with the clients, because a lot of them come from military backgrounds, possibly as well. So they use this colloquial saying called boots on the ground. When they send, like, a lot of them want to come down and check out the property, so they get their own boots on the ground, right? But
Okay.
as a representative for them, with my chanclas on the ground,
Yeah.
I'm going on site,
Yeah.
usually with my drone, to collect footage, so that I can share it with the client, so that it's easy for them to get a better visual of what they're seeing, because a lot of them do come in for pre-sales as well.
Okay.
So it's amazing, because people are buying things that are still like almost on a cocktail napkin, like just drawn out, like, okay, here we go. Okay, it's concept. How much is it? Well, let's get some renders next. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
So that begs the question. Then you focus more in the pre-sales or in the resale market?
That's a great question. I do kind of go with the flow with the client, right? Because you have to use a little bit of flexibility, because anytime you try to sell the client what you want to sell them,
It's not gonna work.
it's not going to work, right? So a lot of it is just kind of going with the flow, seeing what the client likes, having those list of suggestions, sending them to the client. They pick, they choose, and then you go to the next step from there, right? So sometimes I have done some resales, and sometimes I've done mostly pre-sales, because a lot of the clientele is looking for the best deal. And when something's a resale, it's already at a peak value, not really a peak, but it's already at a market value, that if they wanted to compete with that market value, they have to look at something that's pre-construction. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
sometimes like in a pre-sale, like in friends and family at the beginning of the construction, they can find a really good deals because they know that when they finish the construction, the property is already how much could be 15% more
True.
than the equity of the property.
Well, I always like to use a conservative number because
Yeah,
once again,
exactly.
expectations.
You
right?
don't know the
So-
market.
yeah.
How it's going to behave. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can say for sure that there is going to be a gain there because you're working with a pre-sale. But yeah, you kind of have to take things as they happen when you get to that point. But yeah, usually it's an increase.
Yeah,
And not only are you getting a good price on the unit, but yeah, you're getting in early enough that you actually establish some equity too.
yeah, that's the idea. I think that the deal with the pre-sales normally, for the client is something that they can afford, and also they have sometimes finances. You know, it's not like, hey, you have to put 80% right now, and you know, or if you want to pay 80%, I can give you an extra discount. You know, sometimes
Yeah,
like that. Sometimes.
Pre-sales kind of have that flexibility where they offer a little bit of the financial pay table could fit somebody's schedule as well. But yeah, with a resale, it really depends if the person needs the property now and if they're willing to pay now. Because in the US, they're really reliant on credit, whereas here in Mexico is a really cash-rich society where,
Totally.
well,
Yeah.
you can see, for example, whenever you're like a tourist on Fifth Avenue, oh, I got to pay with card. It's going to cost a little bit of a fee, right? Okay, well, what if I pay cash? Okay, we can make a deal for you, right? Same thing with
Definitely.
real estate.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
I know I'm using it very loosely, but it's almost the same kind of example.
Yeah, no, totally. Because exactly in US or in US they are, maybe in Canada also, they are more related to the credits, and here is everything directly. You have, if you're looking for a property of 400,000, you have to pay 400,000. You don't have a mortgage, nothing.
And I will say that I did experience a lot of clients that came in looking for financing, which, you know, some developers do offer that are flexible.
Exactly.
But yeah, a lot of American clientele kind of couldn't understand you don't offer financing in Mexico. Well, they do. But you got to be aware of what the interest rates are. I think the last reported interest rate in Mexico was 11.25. So Americans and Canadians are like, what? 11.25? It's like 5.5 in Canada right now. And
Yes.
the US is at the same.
And a
so-
lot of requirements and a lot of paperwork, and they have to demonstrate that sometimes they make income here in Mexico, and if not, the rate of the interest will be even higher. So yes, definitely, I think our banking system is more conservative and more restricted than in US and Canada, and that has to be bear in mind.
So as a broker, I have to be prepared for clients to learn about that
Yeah.
because it's new for them, right?
And
Definitely.
sometimes the hard way, right? They are looking, and suddenly, hey, you don't have a mortgage here?
Well, yeah, they do, but when you gotta just explain it to them.
Yeah.
right?
The boots on the ground
Yeah.
regarding financing,
Like,
no?
so if you got 4 hours to spend at the bank,
Exactly. And maybe they will have a yes, but maybe there is also the possibility to say no. The bank also can say, okay, I'm denying the credit. So
Yeah.
definitely, if they are looking for financing, I think you will say if I am wrong, but it will be better if they look in their own countries for financing to be applied here in cash, no?
yeah, exactly. And there's lots of ways that they can do it. Obviously legally, but they can go to their bank that they've got the best history with and ask for personal loans. Some people can do it through a 1038 exchange. There's a lot of ways to do it, but yeah, it's not impossible. But when you got a client that's really interested and wants to go through the steps, obviously you're willing to walk them through it and go. And when you need a good lawyer, who do you call? Secure
Good. Thank you so much.
We will use
Thank
that
you.
one with the music and everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a jingle. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Awesome. So, getting back a little bit about the question of Eduardo, tell us about one crazy experience that you have with a client. Of course, don't say names. Just, just
Well, hold on. I'm going through the whole Rolodex because I'm flooded with so many great experiences that I can draw from. Okay.
it could be a nightmare. It could be funny. Whatever you want.
Well, we've already got horror brokers that exist out there in Quintana Roo. So we've
Yeah.
heard some good stories and some bad stories. I think my story that I could say would be something that I learned from as well when I first came down to Mexico. And that would be about adaptability and respect for the culture as well. Because when I came down in my first few months, it was a huge learning curve for myself because I brought down the mentality of like, this isn't how we do it in Canada. But the moment that I started thinking, okay, I'm not in Canada, so I need to figure out how it's done here. So I've seen people experience the same thing, and maybe they got the patience to adapt, and some people
No.
don't. But I think that would be where I've worked with a lot of clients where Mary Poppins said it the best. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Yeah.
So sometimes I use humor, a joke, to kind of help people. Okay, so this is the difference between Mexico and Canada. And then they can have their expectations based on reality. And yeah, we can make their dream become a reality because a lot of people's dream to own property, some of the demographics that come in are younger people who they've been saving their whole life to buy a place in the USA, start a family, whatever they want to do, but they want to have their own home. But the housing prices increase. So when the price or possibility to own their own home is getting farther away from them in their own country, I've introduced them to the idea of like, okay, let's move your dream a little farther away. And for people, they're kind of like, what do you mean, right? So let's move your dream. Maybe we can own in Cancun or maybe Tulum or even Mahahual. And you've got your vacation property. You can have a nice return on the investment when you don't use it. So people have started to warm up to that idea of like, oh, so maybe I can make a foreign investment to ultimately make a national investment in the US as well. So that's one experience that I can speak from, that I've actually gained people's business from, and I've lost a lot of business that way, but I've actually earned a lot more too. So
My God, that is a great approach. I haven't even think about it. That's great.
well, live and learn, right? Or
Yeah.
live and don't learn, and
Yes.
you don't live very long.
Collect-
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's great because the way that you explain them through your story, through your experience, and they feel it. It's not like you are inventing something and you're saying, hey, yeah, whatever, I read it in a book. No, it's something that you feel it, that you have that experience. So when you tell them all of this, they got it in that moment,
And it's so much easier to speak from experience. And being honest, there's so much liberty in it. It's amazing because I know that, okay, my experience that I could tell somebody, I know is already unbelievable because what? How did that happen? So I'm going to tell you the truth because it's easier to tell you because that way it's already unbelievable.
That's good. And you don't have to remember anything. If you are saying lies, you have to remember. You need a really good memory. And I'm not a really good
There is no place in my head
for that kind of memories, So
yeah, and like, hey Siri, remember? No.
There's no way.
I do like, because when we do get a lot of clients, obviously you stay consistent with them, keep good communication. I do rely on a little bit of my calendar. So if you got anybody out there, if you don't know how to use technology, I recommend take a crash course, go to YouTube, do something to learn how to keep yourself organized, because that's the most important thing I'd say, is keeping yourself organized.
Totally. Right. That's great. So with that mentality, you are thinking that you are doing great in real estate? And you are gonna keep in real estate, or maybe you're moving to something else?
We'll see. It would be great to eventually move into something bigger, but step by step, right?
Yeah, totally.
Here's another thing in Mexico that I learned. If you talk too much about what you're going to do, it probably never happens.
Yes,
So
totally.
I love the culture of Mexico, where if they keep something close to them, something amazing is going to happen.
Yes.
So for me, things are going well. I can't
Okay.
complain, right?
That's good.
I'm very lucky to be where I am. I'm very fortunate to be in this position that not only do I get to work and grow and know more about the Mexican culture and experience it myself, but I get a chance to share it with the people that are interested to know more about it, and it leads to business as well.
Okay.
So I will ride this wave as long as possible.
That's good. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So, real estate is something that at the beginning you were thinking to work with, or it was like you said, like the flow and open mind and willing to learn every time, and that's the reason you are here, happy and enjoying that. Is
Yeah.
something like that?
I would agree that that's kind of the recipe
Okay.
that leads to ultimate happiness and success, right?
Okay.
And of course, don't sweat the petty things and don't pet the sweaty things. It's a Canadian saying.
That's a tongue twister. What?
Yeah, okay, so it's a Canadian saying because it's related to humor, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So don't sweat about the petty things, which is small,
Yeah.
Okay.
and don't pet the sweaty things,
Oh, I see.
right? Like
Nice.
when you pet a sweaty dog, you're like, oh, nice to meet you, but
Yeah. Oh, nice. Good one.
there you go. Maybe you learned something new today. You
Yeah.
didn't know.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day you have to learn something new.
But it's a rule.
Awesome. What else? What else that we can speak about? Real estate. We already speak. How do you arrive here? Your wife is from Guadalajara.
No, my wife
Ah.
is actually from Mexico City.
Okay.
She has her own incredible, amazing story as well. She's a pilot, and she's been flying in Mexico for over 20 years. So she's a real compliment to the country as well.
Okay.
And now, well, I'm gonna have to let her tell you her story sometime, or you can follow her on Instagram because
Sure.
we're gonna take over the whole podcast telling her story.
For
What
sure.
is her Instagram?
She is Gabby to us, so GABYTOUS, and
Okay.
yeah, she's a pilot that flies 747s, Air 320s. She's worked for Mexicana, so she goes back that far. She's worked for Interjet. She's worked for Volaris. She's worked for Atlas Air, which is a cargo company in the U.S., and now she's just started with American Airlines as well. So.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Also, I don't know if you noticed in the news the other day, American Airlines actually increased the amount of flights coming to Cancun for this season. So
I didn't know that, but
she's going
that's
to be
good.
working, and
A
people are
lot.
going to be coming down.
That's nice.
Exactly. Well, she's bringing your clients.
There you go. Talk about VIP.
Piloting. Okay.
Oh, good deal.
Yes, perfect. Like, let's land on this beautiful space where you can buy real estate. Look at your ride.
Yeah.
You will find your dream home.
I
no?
should talk to her about doing that announcement. Like,
For sure.
if you look over to your right, you'll see your possible new land.
That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And about, I don't know, about the experience of the closing process with your clients. Of course, yes. Thank you for be with us with your client. But how do you feel about them when they ask, "Hey, are the closing like in Canada is kind of different, in US it's different, but looks like the
when
same."
They say,
Yeah.
let me bring my lawyer so that it's in Canada or in US to review all the documents and see his opinion. How you lead them in that cases?
Well, it's always good to have a legal standpoint. Either review the contract or give you some legal advice. I always recommend that. So when a client wants to bring their lawyer in, that's okay. That's totally fine. If they've got someone they've worked with before, a lot of foreigners that I've worked with have a history of lawyers who've put something into a trust already. That's fine for them to work with that. But I've had a few clients that made a purchase like maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or even like 8 years ago, that their contact doesn't exist anymore as a legal firm, or maybe that person's moved on. So yeah, usually I let them know that if they want someone, I can suggest Secure Law. And it's always up to the client. I leave it up to them to meet with Secure Law and make the ultimate decision. So I ask them afterwards, like, hey, how did you feel in the meeting with Secure Law? And usually, like I'd say 100% of the time, they've been pretty happy about it. Like, hey, they're great. They speak English. They listen to me. That's a lot of clients just, they want to make sure that their concern is listened to or whatever that's with them at the moment. So Secure Law provides that environment that people can feel open to communicate. And I think that's a very important aspect that a lot of my clientele appreciates as well. So thank you guys.
No, you're welcome. That's part of our job, and we are always glad to do that for the clients, because one of the policies that they need all our information. If they hire us or not, that's different story, but they need all the information, because they are investing in a different country, that kind of thing. But my question was more related to, how do you feel the way that they are looking for a property here and the closing process is so different? And yes, you recommend that. That's amazing. But how do you lead then? Like, okay, maybe in Canada you have this idea how the things works, but in Mexico has to be like this,
Right.
How do you feel like it could be a deal breaker, the closing process?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Remember, it depends on the person's experiences as well. So the more of a relationship I can develop with my clients, so that I know their level of purchasing history or experience or education level on what they've made purchases themselves, even in the US or not. So once I get to know them, then I know how I can talk to them, because everybody's an individual. So you don't talk to everybody the same way and expect the same results, right? So as you get to know them, you can personalize it. And I think that's an important aspect of being a broker, that somebody can trust, because the more I listen to people, the more I get to know them. Then when it's good news or bad news, and I'm going to give it to you either way, it's good news or bad, how you process it it's my job to give it to you. Then I can give it to them like a spoonful of sugar, or a way that they understand, using like, okay, in Canada, it's called this. So it's same but different.
Exactly.
Right?
Similar.
Yeah.
Got it.
Same but different. Exactly the same but different. So
yes and no.
Yeah. So very close. But yeah, a lot of the it's same but different. So for them to get grasp the concept, I will rely on the fact that I am not a lawyer. So it gives me liberty that I'm not going to try to pretend to answer this person's question, because I can rely on the services provided from Secure Law. So when a client asks me a complicated question, I'll say, I can speak from experience, but as a lawyer, I think we're going to need to ask Eduardo or Luis or
Stefan.
Everybody, the whole team, right? Because everybody's has their experience. So maybe something that you don't know to help. But I think that's the best way to handle a client's question or lead them into the process, because they need to feel comfortable knowing that they can ask questions with Secure Law. Because if they feel that they can only ask me questions, then there's a problem with the communication pipeline. So we need to make sure that they feel comfortable. Okay, Secure Law. They speak great English, they're patient, they're listeners. So then they can, I'll usually be like, okay, do you want me to write the first email, or do you want me to help you book the meeting? Yeah. And then eventually they take the reins. And then of course they email me CC to kind of keep me on the radar, so that I can,
That's important.
Yeah.
The communication, as you said.
Knowing where a client is on the stage of their purchase really helps me, because then I can check in with them. And if there's anything that they need, or okay, Jess, we're almost done this part. So now time to start thinking about maybe decorative design. Who can I meet next? So take them on to the next step of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. And something that we always put your CC in the emails is because if someday you are working, you are doing your thing, and the client called you, you know exactly where we are, so you are not like, oh, okay, give me 1 second and I called you back,
Oh, yeah. It really helps with, remember my advice, being organized.
Yes, exactly.
If you can have a good recall system as well, it really helps reduce the downtime that a client has those expectations, right? So then you can be up to speed and, all right, let's do this. Yeah,
awesome.
Totally agree. And you guys are doing great. I really appreciate the way you guys communicate with me. And I think my clients are very happy because they keep coming back.
That's good.
So
That's amazing. How do you feel about this podcast?
this is exciting, guys. I hope I can be invited back or maybe even
Sure.
send another one of our crew to kind of add some variety and
Of
some
course.
flavor.
Of
But
course.
this is great. I think you guys, well, you're getting your voice out there. Interesting to collaborate. And I'm really thankful to be here and great, honored to be part of the experience. Episode 29 or something.
20, 26, 27.
26,
I think.
27.
Around that ballpark.
The ones that are allowed to be published.
So, thank you for coming. You
Hey,
know,
thanks for having
it was
me,
amazing. It was amazing to having you, hear you, hear all your experience. You know, how you arrived here. You are married. You went to Guadalajara. You know, that kind of things is nice.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, like, there's so much more I could tell you, but I'm
For
glad
sure.
that I told you the most interesting parts.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Hey guys.
Bye.